Hello everyone, Silent here and welcome to another Bug Rock of the Week episode. Today we're going to be revisiting some of the bugs and issues with the spawning algorithm on the Bedrock edition of Minecraft. As you guys know, the spawning algorithm on Bedrock is pretty terrible and kind of horrific in every single way imaginable, but I'm not going to be covering the big issues with it today because technically those are intentional and I have not worked up the courage to actually cover that topic yet. Maybe in the future, maybe someday. But today we're going to be taking a look at the proper bugs, the proper issues that are not intentional, and talking about how those impact your world, why they should be fixed, and how they should be fixed as well. So hopefully you guys do enjoy today's episode. If you haven't seen the previous episode, that is where we stop and just take a look back at the previous 7 months of Bedrock Edition at all of the major bugs that have been fixed so far. There's actually quite a few that I couldn't even cover in that video, which is pretty nice, a nice little dose of optimism. They really are fixing this platform slowly but surely, and it's also a nice summary episode of the previous 7 months of Bug Rock of the Week as well, where I show off the other major issues that still need to be fixed. So overall, definitely check that one out if you have not already. So the bugs that we're going to be taking a look at in today's episode are technically older bugs that have been around since around January or so, and these bugs were actually fixed before the Village and Pillage update, but they've since been reintroduced, and since the Village and Pillage update added new mobs as well, such as raids and cats from villages, they are also affected by these bugs. So we kind of need to do a recap and revisit of this issue anyway. So what we have before us here is our actual testing grounds. As you can see, we are in a void world. Nothing will be able to spawn around us except on this platform right here. And we can use a little bit of world edit to change the biome of this platform to test biome specific mobs. So the bugs that we're taking a look at today have to do with how mobs choose where to spawn and what blocks to actually spawn on. So whenever a mob spawns in the world, it will check what block it is actually spawning on to make sure it is a valid spawning space. So you want to expect to see your hostile mobs like creepers spawning on glass, for instance. So the same thing goes for basically every mob in the game. They all do block checks. So if you want a pig to spawn, you need grass. They'll only spawn on grass. You won't see them spawning on concrete or something. If they tried to spawn on stone, they would see that it's a stone block and decide, hey, that's not valid, I'm not going to spawn there, and they would abort the spawn. So pretty simple and straightforward concept, but as you can tell from this being in a Bug Rock episode, it has a lot of different issues. So a little bit of a public service announcement: if you want to see any of the bugs that I show in today's video actually fixed, then of course visit the description of the video and upvote the bug reports, and maybe leave a comment on the bug reports as well. Simply by upvoting and leaving a comment on the bug reports, we get a lot more attention actually put into these bugs and tell the developers that we actually want to see these things fixed in future updates. So thank you all very much for the support on the bug tracker, as always. If you've seen my recent Truly Bedrock episodes, you'll know that we have ourselves a little bit of a cave llama. Now, I've actually done some testing, and in Savanna biomes specifically, animals can actually spawn underground. Now, animals are never supposed to spawn underground on Bedrock Edition. They are supposed to be a surface spawn only. So in this little testing area, we have a Savanna biome, of course, and we should see llamas and horses also spawn underground in this general area. And as you can see, we got ourselves some llamas spawning underground and also on cobblestone, so a double bug there. And this is how we have Mr. Spitstone and the Bandit Cave llamas on the Truly Bedrock server. Kind of a weird one, but yeah, just kind of a bug for you. Now I'm gonna run some more tests and we should see some horses and also some other general passive mobs spawn down here. So after a long time of waiting, I finally got some horses and a llama to spawn in the Savanna biome. I wasn't aware that horses actually spawn in a savanna, but as you can see, these guys spawned on the surface and on stone as well, which is just another little block checking bug. So our next bug has to do with raids being perfectly fine spawning underground. So as you can see, this is a cave, and as always, the game separates spawns into surface spawns, which should be up there, and cave spawns. So raids, of course, should only be a surface spawn, because if these guys spawn underground around your village in the caves, you're basically never going to find them unless you X-ray, which you probably don't want to do, and the game developers probably don't want you to do that either. And also, they're never going to despawn naturally because you need a super high light level for things to actually despawn, which of course, you don't get high light level in your caves, I swear. It's so bad it has to be intentional, right? So as you can see, the raids are completely fine spawning underground, and you basically have to go find these guys. If you destroy your beds to end the raid, you'll get more bad omen effect, which you'll have to then get rid of before you put your beds back down. It's just a massive mess and really needs to be fixed. These things should be made to be surface spawns only, and that would solve basically all of these issues as long as it's actually implemented correctly. There's also another major issue with raids that was confirmed by a Bedrock Edition developer corner hard directly to me, and that is that raids don't actually do any form of block check. So what that means is that if there's any form of block in the game that has a collision box, basically if you can stand on it, raids will be able to spawn on it. It doesn't matter if it's a fence post, or a glass pane, or a bottom slab, or bedrock, or a barrier block, or if there's blocks in the pillagers' heads and where they spawn, they'll basically automatically die. It doesn't matter, they'll spawn there and it will be a bad time. They even spawn on magma blocks and in lava and just ridiculous things. So this also brings me into another bug that I covered recently with magma blocks, where things spawn or land on magma blocks in such a way where they won't actually take damage. Really big issue that actually affects mob farms and should definitely be fixed as well. Our next issue has to do with the passive mobs of the snowy tundra biome. So as you can see, bunnies and polar bears will spawn on stone blocks regardless if there is snow on top of it or not. They should likely only spawn on grass and then the full on actual snow blocks, and then along with ice and the other things that you would typically find in the snowy cold biomes, but they probably shouldn't spawn on this stuff. Again, it's really hard to find the exact list of what mobs should and should not spawn on, so I'm just reporting what I see. And here you can see bunnies spawning underground, and also your bunnies and your polar bears spawning on straight stone without any snow on top of it. So this is one that I haven't been able to reproduce in my actual, void testing world. However, as you can see, turtles can actually spawn on non-sand, non-water, non-grass blocks above an ocean, which is kind of weird. Haven't been able to reproduce it, but it does happen in this world, and I think that one is kind of strange. And also you can see that there's bunnies and polar bears spawning on this platform as well, because this is a frozen ocean biome. And as for one final bug to round it up, cats that are spawned from villages don't do block checks either, so they can spawn inside of actual grass path blocks in your village, and then they'll stay there forever meowing. They can also spawn underneath lower half slabs and in between a solid block, and they can also spawn inside of beds too. So overall, they don't do basically any form of block check, kind of similar to the raids, but they're so tiny that they get stuck there forever. While you might think these bugs are pretty minor, they are still spawning algorithm bugs, and basically any improvement to the spawning algorithm on a Bedrock Edition is an absolute lifesaver, because again, it is pretty terrible. I'll cover it in more depth in a future video, but basically any improvement is of course excellent, so you never know what other things they might consider changing or redoing by fixing these spawning algorithm bugs. And by showing that we do care about the changes to the spawning algorithm, you never know what impact that might have. So of course, visit the description of the video, upvote these bug reports, leave comments on them, put additional information on them if you have any, do the things. If you enjoyed today's video, of course, be sure to share it around with others who you might think enjoy it too, and maybe consider leaving a like on the video, as it does help out the video and the channel significantly. If you're new here and you want to see the next episode, be sure to subscribe, of course, but I will see you guys down in the comment section and in the next one. Thank you again for watching, and then there was silence.